To secede or not, last month we brought you the story of 15 upstate towns looking into whether they could secede to Pennsylvania. Tonight, our Caroline Goggin has an update on the organization's big plans to help them cross the border.
If they were in a different state, would they be better off?
It's a loaded question. Could 15 towns in upstate New York from the areas of Tioga, Broome, Shenango, Delaware, and Sullivan counties make a move? At first glance, you might not be able to tell, but I am currently standing on a divide between Pennsylvania and here in New York. Now, a local organization is trying to dissolve this divide by pushing for a big change, one that's unprecedented.
Let's start first with comparing the two states, and that's what we're doing. We now are releasing what we have found about taxes between the two states.
This chart outlines their findings. Take two families with taxable incomes at around $36,000 in 2014. One family lives in Susquehanna County, the other in Broome. The difference is nearly $1,400, with the family in Broome paying an additional $592 in state income tax, $536 in property tax, $158 in school tax, and a combined $112 in sales tax.
We can see that if the state line was moved up, they would immediately have more money to spend because their taxes are less.
And Price argues opportunities are more, while the southern tier struggles.
Unemployment is very high. There aren't the jobs for young people to stay here. The enrollments in the school are going down because families can't find jobs, so they don't live here.
In an article in the Epic Time, Pennsylvania House Majority Leader David Reed said he even supports communities who could benefit with gas drilling opportunities. He said, quote, "If there are communities that believe they would be better served as part of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we would certainly entertain that request." So what comes next? Price suggests further research and communication.
People are talking, and that's good, and people are coming up with ideas. Time will tell.
In Windsor, Caroline Goggin, WBNG TV, Action News.
Now, local Assemblyman Clifford Crouch released a statement on the possible secession to Action News. In it, he said he's anxious to see the results of the survey comparing New York and Pennsylvania. He also said that it may be a long shot, but sometimes when you stir the pot, something good comes out of it. Continuing coverage of a group's efforts to study and pursue secession of 15 upstate New York towns to Pennsylvania. Our Caroline Goggin looks at the group's research on the cost of running a business in New York versus Pennsylvania.
Mark Tedeschi refers to his years of work as a small business owner and adventure.
Because the community is such a great community in the southern tier, it's made it all worthwhile.
For years, Tedeschi has welcomed his patrons here at Moxie's in Conklin. And here at Tedeschi's in Great Bend. Two different businesses in two different states, but with one very big difference in the cost of doing that business.
There's quite a difference in operating expenses between Pennsylvania and New York, and I think, unfortunately, that's why Broome County has lost a great deal of its population, especially small businesses.
It is an issue that the Upstate New York Towns Association is researching. It took two similar but unnamed small businesses and compared 4 factors between the two states.
That was payroll, payroll taxes, data processing, and taxes and licenses. And in each category, the business in Pennsylvania was able to operate at a lower cost.
Take a look at this. $25,000 saved on payroll in Pennsylvania, almost $32,000 saved on payroll taxes, roughly $16,000 saved in data processing, not to mention around $75,000 in taxes and licenses.
When we add up all those categories, the business in Pennsylvania saved over $147,000 on these expenses compared to the New York company.
As a business owner in both states, this is something that Tedeschi understands too well.
It's a good 20% in operating expenses more.
And as a proponent for change, this is something that Price calls alarming.
If this continues the way it is, they wonder how are they going to stay open.
While she argues these numbers instill fear, Tedeschi says for him, it isn't halting the adventure his business has afforded him.
Doing business on the border, whether you're in New York or Pennsylvania, we really do have a beautiful area here, and it's home.
A home where he wants to remain. In Conklin, Caroline Goggin, WBNG TV, Action News.
Now, results are in concerning the original survey that State Senator Thomas Libous sent out polling residents about a secession. 37% of those surveyed said they would support Kirkwood and Conklin succeeding to Pennsylvania. 42% said no. 13% said they aren't sure about it, and 8% said they don't care. Carolyn Price from the Towns Association released this statement about the results. She said, quote, "The Upstate New York Towns Association will review the results from Senator Libous' survey as it looks at options such as seceding to Pennsylvania and partitioning New York State."
We continue our coverage tonight on a push for secession from 15 towns in upstate New York to Pennsylvania. With fracking officially banned 1 week ago today and the hopes of a Southern Tier casino hanging in the balance, many upstaters are asking what is next for their region. But members of one group say they have found the answer, and that's taking back resources that are rightfully theirs. One of those resources is water.
We all came from someplace, and there's a history to that.
Taking a walk through history, reflecting on time past.
I was the loader operator at that time.
At 60 years old, Larry Schaefer carries on the family tradition of logging, a craft that spans 4 to 5 generations.
My dad was sending me to the woods every weekend.
Now the owner of Cannonsville Lumber in Deposit, Larry's struggle is no longer doing chores for his dad. It's coping with logging restrictions around the reservoir, which are tearing into his bottom line.
If they allowed us to harvest that timber, little sawmills like this could be much more successful. I mean, it's just right around the bend, and yet we're going 40, 50 miles into Pennsylvania to get logs to make the sawmill run.
Cannonsville Reservoir holds 96 billion gallons of water currently. Water that belongs to upstate, but gets pumped downstate to New York City every day.
Since the early 1900s, New York City has been coming into upstate and taking its resources for its own benefit and leaving the communities in upstate New York impoverished.
Rich in water, but poor in cash. Price says upstate New York has been denied this resource as it's been denied the one in the ground.
It's time that we take our resources back.
A group in the Southern Tier hoping to claim those resources through secession.
These lines on a map represent people's lives. And I sometimes think that people in New York City forget that we are people up here.
People and families.
I love it here. This is where my roots are. But I got to tell you, if I was in my 20s, I'd be gone.
That's because being on the other side of the border in Pennsylvania lies big savings for his timber company.
Based it on about 70 employees with the payroll we have here, if I moved it over to Pennsylvania, I would immediately save $300,000 a year.
Larry hopes a secession could turn things around for his business.
Thank you for everything you guys do. We appreciate it.
And the employees he calls family. While he sees the benefits of the timber around the reservoir, others are focused on getting compensated for the water itself.
But it will no longer continue to supply New York City with that water on New York City's terms.
Hoping to get paid for resources that belong to them and to their land. Now, Price told Action News he is currently organizing a convention to be held this summer regarding secession. For more on his mission or on Larry's story, you can visit our website. That's WBNG.com.
First, a group of upstate New Yorkers held a rally in Bainbridge on Sunday. Their goal, to garner support to secede from New York. Stephen Adams was there. He tells us more about why these groups say they want to split from the state.
Taxes are overbearing New York State.
Dozens of people.
I don't believe it's run properly.
From dozens of hometowns.
We're taxed too much.
Their grievances inked on signs.
But I believe in this sign.
Signs upstate New Yorkers want borders redrawn.
We want out of New York State, and we want into Pennsylvania.
Some blame the SAFE Act. Others fault Albany's ban on fracking.
Frankly, every landowner that I talk to feels that the state has sold them out.
Others want to get away from the Common Core, but their common goal is breaking free from the Big Apple, dividing New York into upstate and downstate.
And I've seen too much of New York State politics, how they cave to the New York City side.
For too long, residents of upstate New York have been denied opportunity, denied growth, denied hope.
To critics who call the grassroots movement a long shot, supporters say they've got a plan.
It's baby steps.
We intend not only to vote in elections, but also to protest and to picket.
So it is rallies, it is meeting people door to door, It is going to conventions.
Step one was getting people here.
It's not too late for Upstate, but it will be if we don't act soon.
In Bainbridge, Stephen Adams, WBNG TV, Action News.
Secession leaders are considering two options. The first is having all or part of Upstate secede to Pennsylvania. The second would be to keep a small New York state government but split the state into two autonomous regions. Upstate would be called New Amsterdam. Downstate would still be called New York. A plan to study the secession of parts of upstate New York to Pennsylvania will be moving forward. 9 members of the secession movement were in Harrisburg Thursday, speaking with state representatives to try to continue that push.
There is definitely going to be a study out of Harrisburg on how secession can move forward. And this is the sign that people in Upstate have been waiting for, to get off the fence and come out in support of secession.
The group met with staffers from 2 state leaders' offices. Price tells Action News after turning from Pennsylvania's capital that his group and Pennsylvania politicians share the same goals. The study will be conducted by Harrisburg, looking into the legality of secession, and will also look into exactly how that can become a reality. The group is also looking to hold hearings in Harrisburg where people from the southern tier can share their stories about life here in upstate New York.
Back in October, secession supporters turned their sights to Pennsylvania's capital. After a trip to Harrisburg, politicians from PA green-lighted a plan to study the secession of some upstate New York towns to their state. Tonight, the movement turns its sights to a different capital.
There are many questions that only Albany can answer. Calling upon our own government.
And secession supporter Aaron Price hopes to have those questions answered after sending this letter to Albany, particularly to State Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli. Price said he is targeting the comptroller because many questions regarding the financial logistics of secession remain up in the air. He hopes to not only have those questions answered, but to gain DiNapoli's attention. If the comptroller does not respond, Price said the next step is to move to state assembly members and to begin to elicit their help.